Is the American dream dead?
Yes.
To a certain extent.
Our country is so polarized politically right now.
The American dream has been dead for several decades.
I don't know what the American dream is.
America was once a place where people from all over the world would come to actualize their financial potential and fulfillment. Some say it still is that place. But for the vast majority of young people that I talk to, that dream feels like a fantasy of the past. Today I'm at the University of Texas at Austin asking the future generations whether the American dream is dead or not, how they would define that dream, if college is still worth it, and if we should be trying to revitalize that dream or aim towards something different entirely. Is the American dream dead?
What do you define as the American dream?
I was gonna ask you that.
Oh, so are we flipping the script?
How I would define the American dream is like you go to school, you get a degree, get a job right out of college, get married, and have white picket fence house with 2 kids. Can achieve all that in your 20s.
I would like to wager that the American dream has been dead for several decades, stemming all the way back to the post-World War II era.
I would say the original idea of American dream is that being a homeowner, paying the mortgage. That idea has been dead with the real estate market and everything.
I have faith that it's real. And I think as long as you have faith that it's real, then it is real.
I also believe that the American dream, while it's not exactly plausible for most Americans, I think it's more existing in people who are born out of America, outside of America. So let's say people who have not experienced what we go through on a daily basis, who see the cover of, let's say, riches, easy family life. Like, it's completely different than what reality we're living in today.
I do think that as offspring of Asian immigrants, that both me and Demi have experienced firsthand what it means to for a family to build their lives here. And I think to a certain extent it can be done.
Because again, the American dream is very objective to the person that you're talking to, and it's also very objective to the type of history or the type of past that you have. So for someone that doesn't come from a lot, you would probably say that coming to the US, in my perspective at least, is a lot better than what I used to have, because I think I am an immigrant and my family is comprised of immigrants.
But I still think that people do still try to come here for the same opportunities as people did before.
And I also think that saying that the American dream is dead kind of comes from a position of having privilege, because I mean, yeah, things aren't the best here, but they're better than they are in Mexico what have been in Mexico for my parents. So.
What are the biggest obstacles or biggest things that have changed to make the American dream more dead?
Since the achievability of a white picket fence, a house with kids and all that, was a attainable dream to not even the full percentage of the American population back in the golden age of capitalism, when I'd say 1950 to 1970-ish. But you correlate that to the modern day, and it's almost implausible to even afford a house or be a homeowner now.
Yeah, I think it's really tough for sure these days because of inflation and everything.
Just obviously everything's expensive now.
Things like rising housing costs. A lot of times rent here in Austin can be really high, especially compared to a lot of other cities, and it isn't conducive for a lot of different things like immigrants and other. We also have a big homeless problem here.
Nobody's being paid enough for what they do. I'm a teacher by education. And of course, we are the root of most professions and most things, and we just don't get paid enough. And the cost of living is so high, your paycheck does not cover even half the things. And I have kids as well. I have 4 kids. And I'm a student, which I'm a grad student right now. So I'm not teaching, but yeah, the cost of living is so high, nothing's affordable these days.
Socioeconomic status is definitely a factor. And I think that definitely, at the end of the day, there's definitely a wealth disparity gap in this country. So I definitely think that is a factor.
Things are getting much more expensive, and wages don't typically follow the high inflation one-to-one.
Also because I think a lot of people, they don't have American dream these days. A lot of people don't think about having a family like you are. They're doing YouTube, they're traveling the world. It doesn't have to be confined in American dream. It's just a dream of an individual person. It doesn't have to be an American dream, and I guess everyone doesn't need to have the same dream. Everyone has a different dream, and I guess that's okay. It's not necessary to have an American dream.
Nowadays, there's little incentive for us to pursue that sort of lifestyle. So let's say housing. To even buy a house, it's expensive. You have to pay, let's say, what's that organization? Homeowners Association. Yes. You have to pay those fees. Then you have to pay a solid mortgage. It's really strenuous on a student or strenuous on someone who just came out of college. And then compared to apartment, if you rent out, it's going to cost less, but then again, you're at the mercy of your renter. So, but it's still less responsibility for somebody coming out. And then let's even talk about family. It's 10 times more expensive to raise a family nowadays. You could work at a Wendy's back in the day and still provide for your family of let's say 5. Nowadays, a Wendy's job is not even gonna get you a high five, So we're dealing with harder circumstances that previous generations had an easier time dealing with. And I feel like those previous generations have little sympathy because they already got through it. So they're the ones who are influencing the decisions. They're the ones who are, telling us to continue on the route that they pay for themselves, but they, in a way, made it harder for us to even succeed in a way.
And the idea of how quick everything moves now, in a way that back then everything was more stable. It was able to just follow the same path that your parents were doing and then get the same results. Nowadays, every 3 years there's something new. There's a new industry taking over. Tech, AI is basically running everything now. So it's hard to stick to those traditional values that people placed before us.
I feel like a lot of people are gonna say the cost of college or the economy, cost of living, just everything's kind of going up and rising in price. And they're not wrong. Obviously, they're not wrong about that. But with a rising economy, that things are getting more expensive. You're getting paid more. So that would maybe prevent you. Housing prices are going up, obviously, but I think it's still achievable though.
Okay, so clearly you're getting an idea that increased costs of practically everything are unavoidable in this country. It took me years of working on this craft of making videos to be able to make a living off of it, but I'm finally at a point where I feel pretty financially comfortable while continuing to pursue this career. Maybe you've been thinking about pursuing video editing or content creation because it is a high in-demand skill right now, and the competition amongst people who are very good is still low, but you are intimidated by how difficult it seems to get into. And if that is you, then today's sponsor, Motion Array, could help you. Motion Array is a marketplace with tons of video assets like templates, stock footage, photos, music, and sound effects. I actually already used Motion Array to create the graphics for each question in this video. All you have to do is download the asset, drag and drop it into your timeline, add your own values, and you have that beautiful graphic or transition that probably would have taken you hours had you tried to do it from scratch. I don't think I know of any other website that gives you motion graphics, templates, music, and stock video too. So if you are interested in pursuing this career of video editing or content creation, you can go to the first link in my description, and that's going to get you $50 off a Motion Array subscription.
Do you think college is helping to fuel that dream for you? Or is it becoming more obsolete?
I think that college today is probably not as useful as it was in the past, because now with the whole information age, everything's more digitalized now, right? So it's easier for one to actually get those skills, coding skills outside of college, as opposed to before where if you want to learn how to code, college is your best way of doing that, right? So now we have other options that makes college not as important as it once was, I would argue.
Expanding on what he said, it's also the vast majority of U.S. citizens have a college degree comparatively to, 30, 40 years back. So just getting an undergraduate degree isn't so much of a guarantee of a job or a security of your future as it was per se 40 years ago. And then you add in conjunction the disproportionate rise in the cost of this overall attendance to a college compared to even recently in the last 2 decades, how it's how the prices have been basically been gouged. It is much more difficult to acquire the assets to be able to go to college, and it doesn't even have the profitability of it afterwards isn't as great as it used to be per se 50 years ago.
Knowledge is really, really powerful. It's something that people can't take from you, but then by the time you leave this place, you're drowning in debt. I saw a post I think I was on Twitter the other day, and the guy said when he was younger, everybody pushed how great being a doctor was, and he spent all this time in school, and then he got out of school and he's only making 90 to 100K. And he's like, I have way more debt than that, so how am I gonna pay that off? He was like, I could have did something else. And then with society showing YouTubers, no offense to you, YouTubers, and these social media people doing a little bit of nothing are making all this money, and these people that went to college 8, 12 years are not making half as much as them.
That's why I'm here too, because it has got the top-notch education system. But in the same way, because a lot of people are thinking the same thing, a lot of people are here, a lot of people with good caliber are over here. So it becomes really competitive. So in that way, I guess it is a bit difficult too.
Now, while I wouldn't say that college is a scam, I would say that there are different outlets separate from college that you can pursue. And you might not receive the same route that somebody who came to college did, but I'd also say that it's more worth the risk nowadays because college is not as secure as it used to be. There are thousands of students here. Back then, there weren't as many students in college. So if you had a degree, it meant that you had some sort of prestige to you. Now it's more inclusive in a way, but in a good way. But the thing is, when you have more students together, that also makes it harder to stand out. So while I would say that college is beneficial for networking and everything, it's also at a disadvantage because you're paying a lot, like he mentioned, and the fruits of your labor aren't as big as one might hope, especially when you're spending so much.
At the same time, though, I'd say that college gives you like a chance to really stand out as opposed to high school. Like there's like at UT, for example, there are so many resources, so many opportunities for us to grow and like become better people, like more individual people. So I think in college, in a way, yeah, it's kind of like washed out in the sense that there are more people in college now than ever before. At the same time, college can give you like lots of chances to really excel and like grow more. Like for example, like I joined the handball team at UT and now I'm playing handball, and that's like I think a really cool thing.
Education in and of itself, the value of education is important. And I think that's, at the end of the day, why I'm here. I don't think that's necessarily lost on me, but I think it can be, especially nowadays when I think people talk a lot about college as being a social thing, like the main reason, socially am I going to fit in there? Like I think college is what you make of it. And especially when the price goes up and, you compare university here versus in elsewhere, like in Europe and all across the world, where it's more inherently about the education and not, what you're paying for, because people feel like they have to pay so much money, it's education and is almost taken out of it sometimes, and it has to do with social aspects.
Is it beneficial enough for students who have to go into debt for, let's say, years? Like, is that social aspect good enough for them? Is that a good trade-off, I'd say?
A lot of people don't have access to college. They don't have the money for that. They don't have the means for a lot of the opportunities that we have. And so college is definitely, it's helping me be on the right track.
Do you think we should focus on revitalizing the American dream, or should we put our aims towards something else entirely? Do you think the idea of that is outdated? We should shoot for something improved, or take concepts from that, or go completely back to that?
I think that chasing or trying to re-achieve the American dream is a false narrative that wasn't even plausible or wouldn't be plausible in these current circumstances. But the whole notion of a American dream, or making it easier for the working class to make a living and own property, I'd wager that that's a good thing. That's an imperative for the next several decades, is to make at least like the sort of concept of the dream, like the ability to rent a house, at least, or own a house. That notion of stability is something that most Americans should strive for, and the government should at least continue to pursue. But the methods of that are far and few between.
I think we could revitalize the American dream, but to an extent. I feel like it always has had an unrealistic standard to achieve, just to come here and immediately be able to get everything you wanted.
I would definitely say something new, because it's impossible to go back to the past with everything. And I would say getting there, something new exactly. I couldn't tell you that, but I would say getting there would definitely just be getting more familiar with AI technology, not having to be a coder, but being able to familiarize yourself with that aspect of things, and also just being financially literate to be able to make the right decisions on your own without someone else telling you to. And then that would, like, following those two steps, any one of us can make the typical American dream like our own reality.
I think we should aim towards revitalizing and maybe even just changing the whole name of it, because America's not the only place that you can dream. The way that like media shows and the things that overtake people's lives and that are not real make it seem like it's better. But yeah, I think we should revitalize that. Just change the name in whole, and then just instill other things in people rather than what social media shows. Living every day in real life.
I think instead of like trying to like revitalize some dream, like I'm not even sure if there ever was really truly an American dream in the past. I think it's better for us to spend our time talking about like equity instead, because the American dream is essentially just another way of saying equity. You want people, no matter where you're from, to have an equal opportunity and an equal chance to actually succeed in what you want to do. So we should work on trying to actually make places more equitable, invest in programs that encourage like people to be able to go to college without having to break their bank.
I got a root canal on the way, you know, like having affordable healthcare would mean the world to me, and just having that sort of affordability, especially since a lot of those finances are put on my own shoulders, having to balance that while simultaneously paying for the cost of attendance in Austin has been a pretty stressful endeavor. And speaking as a queer individual, for me and related individuals that in like-minded situations, being able to maintain healthcare for us would be a delight, and would mean prosperity for me in the foreseeing decades.
More access to resources and opportunities, regardless of your economic standing, because I feel like a lot of the time it's money that stops you from doing things.
I'd say if we want to revitalize the American dream, I don't even think we need to. I think that it's, high time that we start a new dream. It doesn't have to be the traditional American dream that we've had for centuries now, because it's not working in our current situation. It's like, let's make something new. Let's make something new. And we don't even have to put a label on it. I think we should increase the amount of communal spaces that we have, get rid of some of the individualism that we have in this country, and overall just come together as a nation.
I think the American dream in and of itself is abstract. It's always going to be an abstract concept, and I think there's no way you can stop that. And no matter how many people say it's alive, other people are going to say it's dead. At the end of the day, it's an ideal. It's something you can aspire to. I don't think there should be a time when we say the American dream is perfect, because, in the same way, in and of itself, inherent democracy is always changing. The pendulum is always swimming in terms of who's politically in power. So I think the resources to set an even playing field should be in place. But at the end of the day, there's no necessarily right answer to that question, because the American dream is so abstract.
There's like the independence movement where people are, I'm not throwing anyone under the bus or anything, but you've got girls who think they don't need any man to be successful, which is true, but they think they don't need a man to live. I don't know if I completely agree with that, but I think we're straying away from it. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe that's like what's supposed to happen with life. But I think the vision's still there. It's just how we get there is different.
How do we get there?
Maybe just keep doing what we're doing. I think things will work themselves out. We got a different president every 4 years. I don't want to talk politics. Every 4 years, there'll be something new. Something will change. And I think the outcome will be the same regardless. It's kind of like the theory that no matter which way you walk to your destination, you'll still get there. So maybe that's like how it's going to go. In the end, everyone will get what they want as long as they're striving for it.
And what is your dream?
I guess the way I interpret that question would be to live a content and fulfilling life where I feel like I enjoy what I do, but what I do benefits others, and people would think of me as kind and helping them and being a gentleman. I don't know. That's the best I got.
Being a good person is just the best. Like, having a good heart is at the core of you. And I think that is the dream. Just being a great person.
For me, my goal is just to give my mom the life she never had.
Honestly, it's just to be financially successful, and just be able to take care of my parents and those people that help me around.
I think everyone's true dream is just like live a life that they enjoy without like financial like strife and hardship. Like, I would like to just live life without having to worry about paying for anything, or not have something burdening me that, like, because money itself, it can really burden people to.
So I want to be a successful engineer. I want to be a professional engineer. I want to have a beautiful wife, maybe kids. I want to provide for my family. I want to touch lives. I want to spread the word of the Lord. I want to do God's work. I want to do the work of my family and just be successful.
In the end, it appears almost everyone wants a similar dream: to enjoy their lives, not worry about finances, and be able to help other people. But why that's less achievable and how to go about doing that varied from person to person, as was expected given how individualistic our country now is. Whether that's a good thing or not is definitely left up to debate, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below on what they said, what you'd like to add to it. Let me know in the comments. It's always fun reading those. And if you are wondering how individualism is rising in this country and the effect it is having, I actually already made a video on this right here. If you want to check that out, all right, I'm going. Goodbye.